everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Macy and this will be my first ever YouTube video that I will be posting. So I decided to make a YouTube channel because my mom and my aunt just started their own channel about yarning, and they have cute little yarning podcasts, and I've been wanting to start one for a while, and when they did it I was like, hey, maybe I should start doing some book talks, maybe some craft videos, some makeup videos, basically a ton of different videos that I have ideas for, so I want to be putting them on this channel. And I recently read a book that I absolutely fell in love with that I saw nobody on BookTube was talking about, and I said, hey, this is the perfect opportunity to do my first ever BookTube video. And I'm so excited to be talking about it. It's going to be a book talk, so I'm going to have two sections to this video. There's going to be a spoiler section and a non-spoiler section. So if you want to see me talk about this book, which is Come Back to Me by Mila, then keep on watching. So this book is a young adult contemporary romance novel, although I would kind of classify it as more of a new adult romance just because there is a little bit of sexual content in it and a little bit of adult language. But other than that, I would recommend it probably for like 16 and older. But this is a book about this girl named Jessa who has a brother and her brother's best friend in the military. They're Marines, and they come back from deployment, and Jessa discovers that she has feelings for her brother's best friend, Kit. And those feelings are actually reciprocated, and so they start this summer romance that's just really beautiful to read and watch them grow together. And sadly, at the end of the summer, he has to get redeployed. So on redeployment, Jessa, I think 3 months later, after they get redeployed, Jessa finds out that one of them has died, either her brother or her boyfriend, and she has to find out which one, and we kind of follow her through this journey of self-discovery and just amazing character development and just a beautiful romance story that really just cuts you deep and really makes you feel every emotion. Like, I went through rage, I went through happiness, I went through all of the emotions that I could possibly have during this book, and it was just an emotional roller coaster that was so worth the ride. I loved this book. However, I did give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars instead of a 5. And I will kind of talk about that, the reasoning behind that, a little bit later. But for the non-spoiler section, I just loved this book. I absolutely recommend it to everyone who has like a brother, a boyfriend, anybody who you know in the military, because it really shows what they go through and all of the hardships that they have to endure and how people react to those hardships. And it's just a really raw, emotional story that is so much more than a romance, and it's got some really good family aspects to it, and it's a really good romance. So I highly recommend that you guys pick this book up. If you see it at like Barnes & Noble, I got mine from Target personally, but I highly recommend this book. So if you have not read this book, you should probably go pick it up, and I'm going to start my spoiler section of this video. So for the spoiler section of this book, I loved this book. Let me just start off by saying that. It's just such a good romance book. So I want to talk about some of the things that I didn't like first. So the first thing that I didn't like was Riley's character. Riley is Jessa's brother, and Riley really didn't have any character development. When he got back from deployment, he basically said, hey Jessa, I'm back. I'm gonna go hang out with my girlfriend now. And that's all that we really saw of Riley. Like, I think Riley took her to prom, and we didn't even really get to see any of their interaction at prom. We didn't get to see any of his character development, which was super frustrating because he, spoiler alert, he's the one who ends up dying, and it's frustrating because you want to feel sad because he's engaged, he has a baby on the way, but you don't really feel sad because his character isn't developed very well, and you don't really get to see a lot of his character. So it's frustrating because you want to feel so sad and like feel like the feelings of him dying, but you're just like, oh yeah, Jessa grew up with him. We don't really see any of their relationship together, but he died. So that was frustrating to me in the first place. Then the second thing that was frustrating to me in this book is that I knew from the beginning who died. This book is told from two perspectives, Jessa and Kit. So you obviously can kind of infer that Kit's not going to die because he is a voice in the book and you do read from his perspective. So that was a little frustrating, so I figured out very quickly that it wasn't Kit who was going to die, it was actually Riley. So that was frustrating. Sorry, I have notes over here. So then, the next thing that I thought was super frustrating, this is like the last thing that I thought was frustrating, and the rest I loved. The only other thing that I thought was frustrating was at the end when Kit and Jessa finally like get back together. Kit basically knocks on her door, says, "Hey, I love you." She's like, "Oh, I moved on." A few hours later, she's like, "I'm still in love with you. I need to be with you for the rest of my life." And they go off and have sex, and that's it. Like, that's all you get to see. You don't get to see them actually talking about what happened and discussing everything that happened with Riley and finding each other again. And instead, you see them go off and act like nothing ever happened. And that was frustrating to me because that's not how I think an actual relationship would have worked. I think that they would have to like discuss some of what happened because Kit was a jerk to her. Kit literally like had radio silence for a year. Like, he didn't talk to Jessa for a year, and it's so frustrating because you want them to get back together, but you want to see them actually grow back together and not just fall into each other like blindly. Like, you don't know him anymore because he's been away. He's been at Guam. You don't know what he was doing at Guam. Like, sorry. I personally would not have just taken him back like that and taken him to bed. Like, no. That's not how things go. You have to, like, actually talk about it and get to know each other again because you don't know each other now. You used to, but now it's just, it's frustrating. And then you see them 5 years later get engaged, which is beautiful, and I loved that they're engaged now, and it's so cute. But it's just like, okay, I wanted to see them, like, actually growing back together instead of just falling into it, like, their old routine. So those were some of the things that I really did not like about this book, which is why I didn't give it a 5 stars. Now let's get into some of my favorite things about this book. I loved that this book really showed the raw emotion behind loss and behind losing somebody and behind having a traumatic experience happen to you. Like, Kit was dealing with it, and it was hard for him to deal with it, and he couldn't actually deal with it. He just had to bundle up all of his emotions, and it was hard to read, but it was also beautiful to see. You really got to see what it's actually like for somebody who's been in a traumatic experience like that, and how they react to it. And I think that we all should kind of understand that because it's just frustrating, like, to see other people and not know what they're going through. Like, see somebody going through a traumatic experience and not have any idea what they're going through. So I personally like reading books like this because that helps me, like, help other people cope with things that happen to them in their lives. And even though it's like fiction, it's still a good thing to have under your belt and kind of help people if they ever go through a traumatic experience. I loved the love story in this book. It was really beautifully done. It wasn't super insta-love. They did get together within like the first 3 or 4 chapters, but you kind of saw that they had flirted before and that they were kind of leaning towards a relationship before he came back. So it didn't feel like insta-love, although it kind of was. But I like insta-love stories. I'm one of the few people who actually loves insta-love, because I get to read about the relationship through the rest of the book. Like, I don't know. I'm the minority in that opinion. But, you do get to see them building a beautiful relationship, and, all the moments where, like, Kit's teaching her how to drive, and, like, things like that were just so cute and so, like, real. Like, you could really relate to those kind of moments that they had together. Another thing that I really loved about this book was the character development. You see Jessa stand up for herself with her dad, because her dad is not a good person, and you see her stand up for herself and for her brother and for her mom, and you really, like, get to see her character develop, and also Kit's character. Like, before, he's kind of this cocky, like, oh, I can have any girl that I want, and then he falls in love with Jessa, and he realizes that he doesn't want any other girl, he just wants Jessa, which I thought was so beautiful and so cute, and the character development was really, really well done, except Riley's character. It was just poor. I also loved to see how much Kit stands up for Jessa, and everything that happened with Jessa's dad frustrated me to no end. Even at the end, when Jessa's dad finally kind of explains what happened between Kit's mom and him, it was still like, but why? Like, why are you such a jerk? Like, you don't have to be this horrible, cruel person, and you don't have to verbally abuse your family. And it was just frustrating. Like, everything that happened with her dad was just, it made me so mad, and those were the parts that I was like, I need to throw this book across the room, which I kind of did. It's a little, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's a little dented, and I don't often throw my books. I threw this book across the room because I was mad when Jessa's dad came out. I was mad when Kit was ignoring her, and, like, there was just a bunch that I was mad at. And I was also, like, it made me cry. I did cry when Riley's character died, even though his character wasn't developed. I did cry, and I had all the emotions because his poor girlfriend's now pregnant and alone, and I really liked to see that Kit was the godfather, and that Jessa and Kit were taking care of him, and, like, it was a really good plan to have that kind of relationship built between Jessa and Riley's girlfriend. Other than that, there's not much else that I want to talk about. I honestly loved this book, and I highly, highly recommend that everyone go pick it up, because it's a really good story that just takes you on an emotional roller coaster, and it's beautiful, and it's worth the read. I did also want to quickly just mention that Mila Gray has a companion novel to Come Back to Me, which is Stay With Me. This follows Dee Dee's character and her romance, and I have not yet picked this one up. Dee Dee is Jessa's best friend in the book. You don't really get to see her very much, which is why I didn't mention her earlier. But it does follow her character, and I'm really excited to pick this one up. So that's it, I guess, for my first ever YouTube video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will be posting a new video very soon. All right, guys. Bye.